Well, I would like to welcome all of you to our webinar with Merchant Advocate. My name is Caroline. I'm the Vice President of Membership and Business Development here at Rhode Island Hospitality Association. And we have been talking with Merchant Advocate probably for 2.5 years, and started partnering with them, or really pursuing a partnership last fall after a kitchen cabinet meeting where some of our members, the sole focus of that meeting was on credit card fees, and there was just a big realization of how much people were paying. So we called Howard up and said, we think this is a good time to start a partnership. So Howard has been an entrepreneur for 33 years. He spent the last 17 years of his career in the payment card industry. I can personally say I've never met anyone so passionate about credit card fees as Howard. He's provided consulting services in many areas, including contract negotiations, expense reduction, PCI compliance, as well as software and equipment integration. He loves helping businesses and owners improve their bottom lines, and has been a regional director for Merchant Advocate since January of 2013. So over 10 years. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, Howard. If anybody has questions, it's a 15-minute presentation, and then we'll have 15 minutes of QA. So go ahead and drop your questions in the QA button, and then we'll address those later on. All right, Howard, take it away.
Well, thank you, Caroline. I appreciate the opportunity here, and we're excited about our partnership with RIHA. Everyone, again, my name is Howard Goldstein. I'm excited to share a little bit about who we are, what we do, and how you could potentially improve your bottom line in a very unique way. I'm going to share some case studies with you and a little bit of background. So let me just jump right in. In a nutshell, we help merchants save money on credit card processing fees without having to switch processors. I want to share a little personal story with you to get started. That is actually a picture of me 23 years ago. I actually have hair under that hat. And I opened a cell phone retail store. This is back before everyone had a cell phone. And there were a lot of independent contractors like me. And this is before T-Mobile became T-Mobile. It was called VoiceStream, if all of you remember that. But as a new business, I've been on your side of the credit card processing machine, okay? And being on a new business list, a woman came in, she signed me up, I was filling out all this paperwork, I didn't understand most of what she was saying, but I knew I needed to take credit cards. And about 6 months after the dust settled of opening my business, I noticed a $42 charge on my bank statement, and I had no idea what it was for, but it had the letters LSE. And some of you may guess what that is. I discovered I had signed a 4-year lease for a Narit 2085. Some of you may recognize that terminal. It's been long retired. And this is the painful part. I spent over $2,000 for a machine that I could have purchased for $200. So I always ask my clients, do you own or lease your equipment? If you are currently leasing your equipment, there is a high probability that you are also being overcharged for credit card processing, because leases are totally unnecessary in this industry. So I ran into the sales rep. I closed down my business about 3 years in, and I ran into the woman about 5 years later, and we kind of did that dance. It was a local restaurant in Seattle, and her name happened to be Karen. I said, Karen, I have to ask you, how did you do that to me? I was a young entrepreneur. I didn't have a lot of money. You charged me 10 times what I could have bought that machine for. And she looked me in the eye and she said, Howard, I was recently divorced and I had 3 kids to feed. And I said, Karen, you get points for honesty, but that is cold. And this industry is cold. We've been protecting our merchants since 2007. Most people do not know that it is an unregulated industry. People in a situation, Karen was a nice person, but maybe in a desperate situation, people do desperate things and they do things they may not have done otherwise. But then think of the unscrupulous people in this industry. They can charge you whatever they want, and they can raise the rates on you whenever they choose. And I'm sure many of you on this call and this webinar have had your rates raised over the years. We are not a processor. A key point to take away here, the goal here is to help you save money without switching providers. So we analyze over $20 billion a quarter now. We're 17 years into doing this. And about 72% of the businesses that we look at are being overcharged. And I'll explain what that means in a second. But we have saved our clients over $300 million to date. And I welcome the opportunity to help many of you that are on this call here today. So we have a very simple 3-step process. We analyze, we adjust, and we audit. Now, the goal here today is, to, of course, for you to learn about who we are, but to give you an opportunity to get a free preliminary analysis. So we have a landing page on our website. I'll give you the link at the end of this webinar that you can upload your statements to. There's no obligation to engage our service. The goal here is to take a look at your program and to see if you are a candidate for our service. If we can't put at least $1,200 a year on your bottom line, we will not bring you on as a client, okay? We have a pretty low bar to entry, but if we can't put at least $1,200 on your bottom line, you have what we consider a good program. And again, about 1/3 of the statements we look at actually have a good program. But about 2/3 of the people on this call, and in general, are candidates for our service. But we don't just look at pricing. It's very important. I always say these statements might as well be written in Egyptian hieroglyphics. They are confusing by design. We look at pricing. We look at procedure. We want to make sure you're PCI compliant. There are a lot of people that are getting charged outrageous rates for PCI non-compliance. So we can talk about that in the Q&A if you'd like. We look for hidden fees. I want to point out just a couple of fees to you. That VSEIRF, the second redlined item, that stands for Electronic Interchange Reimbursement Fee. Okay, they needed to make it an acronym to fit it on the line. Okay, and that line item we only see when there's a procedural error. That has actually been increased now. They changed the name and they increased that up to 3.15%. This is a huge area of opportunity to save clients money. But we also have a discount expense for credits on the bottom, totally made up fee. Doesn't exist anywhere else in the known universe. We called this merchant service provider out on the carpet on this in a very professional manner. We maintain positive relationships with the merchant service providers because you work with them. But we called them out on this and we were able to eliminate that. We saved this client over $1,000 a year just by eliminating that one line item. So if you are a candidate for our service, we'll review our simple one-page agreement. And if you authorize us to advocate on your behalf, our name is what we do. We will do our best to negotiate the best possible program, clean up procedural surcharges, clean up every area that we can for you. And we're going to generate a report. I want you to understand very clearly how we measure the effectiveness of what we do. So this was a restaurant that did $112,724 post-negotiation. Their old net rate, we see a lot of rates in the 3%, 4%, and even over 5% area and even higher, okay? So when you send us your latest 3 months of statements, we're going to establish what we call the old net rate or the baseline net effective rate that we're going to measure the savings from. So this particular restaurant was at 4.13%. So the basic logic of how we measure what we do is what you would have paid at your old net rate versus what you actually paid post-negotiation. This is not theory. This is very real, practical expense reduction consulting. So we lowered their rate by nearly a full percentage point, and their gross savings was just over $1,100 in this month. Now, it's a very important point to make here. Our business model is performance-based. If we do not save you money, there is no charge for our attempt to do so. If we save you money, We normally share in the savings 50-50. For the general public, general merchants that come to us, 50-50. For a REHA member, we are truly a member benefit. So if you are a member of REHA, we will do a 60-40 split in your favor. So this merchant, for nothing more than seeing my presentation that you're seeing here today, sending us their statements, they uploaded them through the landing page. They were a candidate for our service. We had a 30-minute meeting to review our one-page agreement that authorizes us to advocate on their behalf. I answered all of their questions. It made sense, performance-based. Worst case scenario, they pay what they're paying. We are only paid out of savings. They engaged our service. They are on track in their first year on board with us to put just over $15,000 on their bottom line, again, without changing processors. So the third phase of what we do is we audit your account. I could share thousands of case studies, but I have just a couple to share with you. This was a average annual gross savings for this merchant was just over $8,700. When I say we audit your account, we look at every single line item and looking for anomalies, looking for increases, okay? The initial term of our agreement is a 36-month term because we catch rate increases all the time. There's no obligation to continue with us after that initial term, but case studies like this and many, many others are why people stay with us. We catch rate increases in year 4, 5, 6, 7, and on. So rate increase number 1, 18 months into the audit, we caught a rate increase. We get back on the phone and say, excuse me, this is a merchant advocate client. We noticed this rate went from here to here. This fee went from this percentage to that percentage. We were able to eliminate it. They are counting on you not paying attention to your statements. Most merchants that I talk to rarely look at their statements because even when they do, they don't make any sense. Again, they're confusing by design, let alone looking at the different anomalies, a tiny little increase here or there. Rate increase number 2, 6 months later, we were able to eliminate that. Our efforts prevented their processor from charging them more than $6,300 in additional annual fees. This merchant is a huge fan of what we do because we caught these rate increases and were able to eliminate them. So many people think, well, why don't I do this on my own? And I absolutely celebrate the entrepreneurial spirit. But for the same reason, most people do not represent themselves in a court of law. This industry has a language unto itself. And these companies know that if they're talking directly to the merchant, they don't understand all the intricacies of this business. What's negotiable, what's not negotiable, what's a hidden fee, what's an unnecessary fee, et cetera. So there's a client of ours doing about $8 million a year. In 2020, one of the owners saw my presentation. Very simple, made sense, engaged our service. He sent us their statements. They were definitely a candidate for our service. But in my discovery, I realized that I found out the manager had tried to get better rates on her own back in 2018. She did a pretty good job, $42,000. Now, this particular processor, there's just a few processors out there that have decided that they're not going to negotiate with experts like Merchant Advocate. I've been in the industry 17 years. Our CEO has been in the industry 25 years. We understand the rules of the game and they're stacked against the merchants. So they don't want to talk directly to us. Just a few, we work very well with most processors. This happened to be one that wants to only talk to the merchant. So that's not going to stop us from helping you. I take particular pleasure. I actually handled this negotiation because it was so egregious and I wanted to get involved. We have a whole team of negotiators that do most of our negotiating, but this one, I take particular pleasure in knowing that this processor has no idea how this merchant, this manager became so smart about the credit card processing business because I was ghostwriting the emails for her. I always say when people try to do this on their own, they'll get 20 to 25 cents on the dollar of available savings. And this is a case in point. First 12 months post-negotiation, we saved them another $149,000. And this is the painful part. They had been with their processor for 12 years. Now in December of 22, remember, they reserve the right to raise the rates whenever they want. They got their fees raised by over $3,000. We were able to eliminate that and prevent them from getting $37,000 approximately in additional fees if we had not eliminated that rate increase. So I just want to finish up with a couple things. I always encourage people to get their annual checkup. January 2017, they had a great program. They did not get their annual checkup for 18 through 21. They reached out to us in 22, 5.5 years later with the same company. And we can now save them more than $19,000 per year. They turn the heat up slowly so you don't notice the increase, but over time, it can become dramatic. So let's find out if you're being overcharged together. Send us your latest 3 months of statements for a free preliminary analysis, and we'll have the results within 3 business days. One of 2 scenarios. You have a good program, less than $2,000. Remember, 60% of $2,000 is $1,200 minimum net bottom line increase. 15-minute meeting will give you some free advice. Your candidate for our service is the other scenario. We'll have the 30-minute meeting. If you engage our service, one of our negotiators will be assigned to your account within 4 business days. We'll perform a thorough line-by-line analysis and provide you with a potential annual savings figure. And a successful negotiation can take 2 to 4 weeks or longer, depending on the responsiveness of your processor. So my time is up. I just want to finish with one of my favorite quotes of all time. You can have everything in life you want if you'll just help enough other people get what they want, by Zig Ziglar. You are in the hospitality industry. This summarizes what you do. You help a lot of people get what they want, whether it's in your restaurants or in your hotels. Our business model is win-win. The only way that we win is we help you win first. And that's the way consulting should be, in my opinion. So with that, I'll take some questions. Here's my contact information. You can call me, you can email me. That is a QR code to my calendar. And on the bottom, you'll see the address for the landing page that you can upload statements for your free, no obligation analysis. We're just going to determine if you're a candidate for our service. And with that, I'll pass it over back to Caroline. And Caroline, thank you so much again for this opportunity.
Sounds great. Thank you, Howard. Does anybody have any questions? You're welcome to either ask them verbally or put them in the QA box.
And I will float out there if anyone is concerned about surcharging programs that have come along in the last few years. Again, if you'd like to call me, I can talk with you about that. They are taking on a lot of traction in the restaurant world, of course, and in other industries as well. But that is a topic that people often like to discuss. But I just wanted to throw that out there for you.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any questions.
Caroline, I've got one question.
Hi, Bob.
Sure.
Go ahead.
How you doing, Howard? Nice presentation.
Thank you.
How do you handle multi-units? Do you handle by individual unit, or do you handle the whole company as one?
I'm sorry, say that again?
I've got four different locations. I just wondered if you treated them individually or if you treat them as one group.
Well, we would treat them as a group. We would do the individual analysis on every account. Interestingly enough, my relationship with Reha started by me I always take my associations through our process, and they had multiple accounts. And very surprisingly, each of the accounts did not have the same pricing. So we got everything in alignment. So we do look at them individually, but we treat them as a whole, and we'll negotiate them all together.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Howard, I do have another question here. How easy is Toast to negotiate with?
A very good question. We have had success with Toast in the past. The current status that I have learned from my director of operations in recent months is they have put a moratorium currently on negotiating. We've had success with them, but they're going through some changes, what my understanding is. I don't know the details of that, but they put a moratorium currently. But as that gets lifted, we can certainly revisit that. But I like to set proper expectations, and we can take a look and let you know if you are a candidate for a service. And when they do lift that moratorium, again, we've had success with them in the past. And we'd love the opportunity to help you in the future as well. But we're kind of in a holding pattern with Toast right now.
Okay, thank you, Howard. Next question is similar, working with both Shift4 or Pfizer.
We have had success. Absolutely. There's every processor is different. And what's fascinating about this unregulated nature of the industry, it's more than just the processor itself. And oftentimes has to do with the individual agent that set you up with that processor. This industry is made up of independent contractors. So just like Karen set me up and had me sign that lease for my cell phone business, she could do what she wanted. She didn't have to do that lease. She arbitrarily charged me whatever the pricing was at that time. There is very little regulation when it comes to what you're set up with. So I can look at 2 Shift4 accounts, and one can be in phenomenal shape and another we can save a significant amount of money. We won't know until we actually look at the statements.
And then same with Pfizer?
With who?
Pfizer?
Yes. I mean, any processor. I'm not, can you spell that, Pfizer?
F-I-S-E-R-V.
F-I-S-Z-R. I am not familiar with them, forgive me, but I will, I don't make up answers to questions, so I will look into that for you if you want to contact me. Again, there are some companies I can tell you, for example, like Square, unless you're doing multiple millions of dollars, they have a static flat rate. So there are different companies that that won't negotiate because they're so large or they have a particular type of program. I just recommend if you have a question of whether or not we can have success with any particular company, send us your statements. I'll get with my director of operations and I can get you a very specific answer on our track record with that particular company.
Okay, Howard, next question. Does Shift4 force you to lease equipment?
I am not aware of that. So I can look into that for you. Very interestingly, in Canada, almost universally, people only lease up there. It's very strange. But in my opinion, leasing, it's a personal pet peeve of mine, as you can imagine. I paid 10 times the value of that Narit 2085. So I will look into that. I am not aware of them requiring that, but I can certainly get that answer for you.
Okay, thank you. And then another note about Pfizer is First Data. There are hundreds of resellers, so it's about the reseller.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, First Data. So First Data is a processor, a platform. Okay. There's so many millions of businesses out there. So what you have, this industry is hierarchically set up with what are known as ISOs, independent sales organizations, also known as MSPs, or merchant service providers. Okay. And then they have under their umbrella hundreds of agents. Apparently, I've heard, I haven't confirmed this, but I've heard throughout the years, I've been doing this for 17 years. I've heard that the average agent's in this business 6 months. Okay, that does make sense because everybody wants to get in this business and get rich quick and blah, blah, blah. They overcharge people. They don't know how to take care of people, and they're in and out of the business very quickly. So, you know, it's just so First Data is a platform that many merchant service providers have access to and can sell access to.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Next question. During the presentation, you referred to savings to the bottom line. Are the numbers that you referred to the business's savings or the total savings, you know, including the part that merchant advocate would get from that?
So, and let me just go back to my previous slide here. There's one of two scenarios. If there are less than $2,000 in potential gross annual savings, that is what we consider a good program. We do a 60-40 split for a member, so we have to find at least $2,000 in savings for you to realize 60%. Now, this slide is kind of speaking to members. If you are not a member, we would need to realize at least $2,400 in savings, because we do a 50-50 split, which is, if you're not a member currently watching this webinar, I highly encourage you, obviously, to become. RIHA is an awesome organization, but this is just one of the member benefits that you get, an extra 10% of whatever the gross savings are that would go to your bottom line. Now, if all we can recognize is about, let's say $1,200 or $1,500 in potential gross annual savings, we'll have a 15-minute meeting. I'll give you some free advice. We have many merchants that are not clients of ours that are putting over $1,000 on their bottom line because we've given them some free advice. They haven't met our minimum. We build goodwill. They refer their friends to us. So this has to make sense. We're not going to waste your time. And of course, we're not going to waste our time if there's just a few $100s in savings to be realized. So the bottom line is we have to put at least $1,200 on your bottom line to be a candidate for our service.
Okay, thank you, Howard. Another question. Credit cards with rewards programs. If a guest uses these credit cards, is the merchant changes an additional rate for rewards points given to the customer?
Yes, this is all part of what most people don't realize, and you are getting to. There are hundreds and hundreds of different card types in the industry. Nothing is free. When someone pays you with a rewards card, let's say an airline mileage card or a cash back card, those rates, the part that goes to the card brands, MasterCard, Visa, Discover, American Express, those rates are higher. So you are paying for your customers' rewards or their airline mileage. You do pay a higher rate for rewards cards.
All right, thank you. Last call for questions. These are really good questions.
They really are.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you. I love questions, and I'm been doing this a long time. I don't know everything, but I have a wealth of knowledge that I'd love to share with you, and really welcome the opportunity to help as many RIHA members as possible, and non-members, if you are on the webinar, benefit from what we do. But first and foremost, let's see if you're being overcharged. If you are being overcharged, we can talk about engaging our service. There's no obligation to engage our service when you send us those statements. But we do ask for the latest 3 months of statements, because we want to know what is the latest snapshot of your business. And that is important. So January, February, and March statements. And by the way, this is our landing page right here, merchantadvocate.com/RIHA. You can fill in this information, and there's a little button here to click to upload your statements. And we'll have results of that preliminary review just to determine if you're a candidate for our service or not within 3 business days. And if you choose to engage our service, then we'll do a deeper dive and we'll let you know what we believe the potential savings are. But we just do a preliminary review in the beginning to determine if you're a candidate for our service.